Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute crazy time when it comes to the college football coaching carousel for 2021. I wanted to do a quick video grading all of the biggest hires that have happened. There's a lot of them. Let's get right into it. Starting with the USC hiring of Lincoln Riley, the biggest one out there. Culture fit, I'm going to give it an A+, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of ways that coaching hires get explained. This Lincoln Riley to USC is a clear home run. Lincoln Riley realizing and understanding that his style of coaching, offensive heavy, does not work in the SEC. You've got Oklahoma going to the SEC. It was reported that Lincoln Riley, not a fan of coaching in the SEC, didn't like that Oklahoma was headed to the SEC conference within the next few years. He says, listen, you got a wide open Pac-12 with 0 super teams. Oregon just lost their head coach. It is completely open. Huge recruiting base out there. Offensive minded. You really don't have to have a great defense in the Pac-12 to be a powerhouse. You take a look at some of the recruits Lincoln Riley has already gotten to flip from Oklahoma. This culture fit out west in the Pac-12 conference is an absolute A+. The recruiting fit, A+. We've seen it. I mean, there's like 3 5-stars, including the number 2 overall quarterback in the 2023 class, Malachi Nelson, who's the number 2 player in the 2023 class, already flipping his commitment from Oklahoma to USC. Lincoln Riley's going to have his pick of all of the top offensive players, all of the top quarterbacks out there. Bryce Young is an interesting idea, to where Bryce Young is from California. He goes to Alabama. If Lincoln Riley is at USC, Bryce Young is probably staying home. And, you know, that guy's going to win the Heisman. So it's just such a great fit. Offensive minded. You don't have to worry about the defense in the Pac-12. The recruits are there. They're ready. Phenomenal fit. Their coaching fit, I give it an A-. It's just due to the fact that Lincoln Riley is such an offensive-minded coach, and he does have the self-awareness to realize this style does not work in the SEC. It will work in the Pac-12, but if I'm Lincoln Riley, I'm doing what Ryan Day just did. I'm hiring basically an alpha male defensive coordinator, to where I don't even have to worry about the defense. Hire a proven defensive coordinator. The only reason the coaching fit is an A-. Not a big defensive guy. Not that it matters a lot in the Pac-12. It doesn't. It matters more in, the Big Ten, the SEC, but it still does matter, so they get an A- for the coaching fit. And then the overall grade, it's a clear A+. I know everyone has been saying it, but it just is. Program potential, this is a possible top 5 program, and the Pac-12 has really been waiting for USC to become a powerhouse again. They need it desperately. Lincoln Riley going there will absolutely make it happen. And then one word to describe the hire: perfect. Or you could say Lincoln Riley understanding, having the self-awareness. My coaching style will not work in the SEC. I'm an offensive guy. The Pac-12 is completely wide open. Let me go there. There's an absurd amount of offensive talent in the state of California that I can get very easily, convince them to stay home. Look at my development. Kyler Murray Heisman, Baker Mayfield Heisman, Jalen Hurts developed into a second-round pick. The Spencer Rattler thing is really interesting, how that didn't work out, but that's a lot of really good development Lincoln Riley can pitch to those California recruits, along with the idea of staying home and building back up the USC program. This is an absolute home run. There's no other way to look at it. Brian Kelly to LSU, a shocker to many people. Let's get into this one. Culture fit, D-. This one is just a shocker to me. Going from Notre Dame to LSU in terms of the overall culture is crazy. Brian Kelly does not strike me as a guy that would work in the SEC, would work in Louisiana. I'm surprised by this move. I understand why Brian Kelly did it. He wanted more money. He got more money. All these coaches are getting 10-year deals. But this hire screams of, 3 and done for Brian Kelly. I think 3 years, maybe 4 years, he's going to get fired. There's no way he lasts 10 years of this contract. This is not a good fit in the SEC. Recruiting fit, D. I mean, I don't know the connections that Brian Kelly has coming from the north to the south when it comes to recruiting. It's not like he coached at Arkansas and now he's moving up a spot to where he's, recruiting the same talent pool. Going from the north to the south, you've got a whole different recruiting base. You've got to make new connections down south. That's going to be tough. Coaching fit, I gave it a C. I mean, we'll see. Brian Kelly definitely has had a nice run at Notre Dame these past few years. Notre Dame's been in the playoffs 2 times. They had a chance this year. They didn't make it. The loss to Cincinnati basically eliminates them. They're Notre Dame's kind of an interesting spot where they don't have that conference championship game. So, it's interesting to judge how that program's success level recently because there's no conference championships to grade it by. But overall, Brian Kelly's a good coach. I give it a C, and then the overall grade, I'm being nice here. I'm being nice. I'm giving the overall grade a D. Program potential, we'll put it at top 15 now. We know how tough the SEC is. The SEC's only going to get tougher with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas to the conference. Although we know Texas is down, they still have the potential to be a powerhouse due to their in-state talent. Oklahoma kind of going through a coaching change. Their program's gotten hurt a lot recently. We'll have to see how well they do in the SEC. But again, I'm going to say top 15. Louisiana has a ton of talent, and LSU, that's still the in-state school, and they're still going to be able to sell staying home to all of that top talent in Louisiana. And then one word to describe the hiring, very confusing. I think that's the word for a lot of people. Again, Brian Kelly, not a bad coach, but going from Notre Dame to LSU, just the overall culture. I understand you're getting more money, but it's just, I'm really surprised. LSU's hiring a good coach, but the culture fit is not there. It's not there. This will not end up being a good hire. You wish LSU fans luck, but it's going to be tough for them. Moving to Marcus Freeman to Notre Dame. They promoted from within. He was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame for a year. Now he's the head coach. Culture fit, I'm giving it an A. He seems like a perfect fit for Notre Dame, and we can speculate on what happened with Luke Fickell. I think the reports were Luke Fickell said the only time I'm going to talk to other teams is after Cincinnati's season ends, and I guess Notre Dame didn't want to wait for that. I know Luke Fickell was pretty high on Notre Dame's list, but they go with the hiring from within. We've seen this also with another top program recently, Ohio State hiring from within. So yeah, it seems like Marcus Freeman's such a good fit. He has not coached he has not been the head coach of a major program, so that could be a bit of a learning curve, but it's a very good culture fit. Recruiting fit, A+. Marcus Freeman, younger guy, relates to recruits well. When it comes to his recruiting versus Brian Kelly, I think he can out-recruit Brian Kelly. Now, with Notre Dame, there's some academics involved. They don't take some kids due to them not having the academics in order. But overall, I think Marcus Freeman will recruit better at Notre Dame than Brian Kelly did. Younger, more energetic, relates to kids. He's going to have to prove himself here. First-time head coach, he will have to prove himself to many of these recruits. But I think he will end up having more success on the recruiting front. Coaching fit, I give it a B. And the only reason I'm giving it a B, you can't give it an A. The guy's never been a head coach. He's never been a head coach, so you can't give it an A. I think he's going to be a good head coach. He's a really young guy. But because, he's been really good as a defensive coordinator at Cincinnati, Notre Dame had a good defense this year. Obviously, the Notre Dame boosters, the brass within that program really liked what they saw. They hired the dude when they could have waited for Luke Fickell, possibly to interview him, gauge his interest. They said, we don't want to do that. We'll just hire our guy, Marcus Freeman, and promote from within. So I'm going to give that a B just due to no experience. The overall grade, given it an A-. The program potential, I'm going to say top 5. You could say top 10, but I really do. I mean, Notre Dame's been in the playoff twice. Sure, they got blown out both times, but overall, with the playoff potentially expanding to 12 teams, they're really not going to have to worry about not having that conference championship game. It's not going to be a big deal to where if you lose one game and you're Notre Dame right now, not having that conference championship, not having that 13th data point basically eliminates you. Both times Notre Dame made the playoff, they were undefeated throughout the regular season. You lose one game, you don't have a conference championship, it's very tough to get in, along with, a schedule that's in flux. Like this year, Notre Dame scheduled a lot of opponents that you would think would be good teams like Stanford, USC, but those programs were down this year, and their overall strength of schedule, they didn't have one really good win. Their best win was Wisconsin, but I would say they do have potential to be a top 5 program. They were there at one point with Brian Kelly making the playoff 2 times, and then one word, it's an upgrade. And this is how a lot of Notre Dame fans feel. I think there was a silent majority within the Notre Dame fan base that really didn't love Brian Kelly. I mean, he was winning. They were playing well. They make the playoff 2 times, but they get blown out twice. Back in the 2012 National Championship, they get destroyed by Alabama. So I think many Notre Dame fans are very happy with this younger coach, more energetic, up-and-coming riser within the college football ranks. So I think it is an upgrade. Mario Cristobal goes to Miami. This was a little bit of a surprise. People thought he would stay at Oregon, but he comes home to Miami. The culture fit, I give it an A. You know, hard-nosed, defensive-first guy. If you're Miami and you look at where you are as a program right now, you have to be saying this is an A-plus hire. With where we're at as a program, hiring Manny Diaz 3 years ago, compared to this hire, it's such an upgrade. It's so much better for Miami. This kind of fell into their lap. Recruiting fit, you give it an A. This is a guy, he had a really nice run at Oregon. They didn't finish this year great, but that win against Ohio State, completely out-coaching that Ohio State coaching staff. You win in Columbus with that Oregon team. Ohio State, way more talent. Didn't matter. They completely out-schemed them. This guy has a proven track record. He's going down to Miami. There's a great talent pool in the state of Florida. He should upgrade the recruiting there for the Miami Hurricanes. The coaching fit, you give it an A+. This is exactly who Miami needs. It's such a good fit, going back home, and the big debate was, why would he leave Oregon for Miami? Oregon is a better job. That's why if you're Miami and Miami fans, you have to be extremely happy with getting a coach from Oregon when their program has had more success than your program for the past decade. Very, very happy. The overall grade, I give it an A. It's a beautiful fit. Program potential, I'll give them top 12 right now. They could be top 10. There's a lot of talent in the state of Florida and also the ACC, kind of in a flux right now. Will Clemson return to that top dog spot? Florida State's been down for a while now. There's no real phenomenal team. Miami, with one great year, could catapult their recruiting, and that could help them return to national prominence for the foreseeable future. One word, exciting. You've got to be excited if you're a Miami fan for getting this guy from Oregon once again. Next, we've got Brent Venables going to Oklahoma. This was the Clemson defensive coordinator who declined many, many job offers throughout the years from other programs. He ends up settling on Oklahoma after they lost Lincoln Riley. The culture fit, I'll give it a B. This is a crazy change for Oklahoma. Not only are they going from the Big 12 to the SEC, but you're going from a pure offensive mind, Lincoln Riley, who really doesn't care about defense, let's be honest, to a defensive head coach. Very, very different culture. I like it for Oklahoma. I'm giving it a B because it's just, you're going to lose a lot of those offensive recruits. They expected Lincoln Riley. They get Brent Venables. That's a big difference. That's going to be tough. But going to the SEC, you need this culture change. More defense. I like it. Recruiting fit, it's a C-. How will Brent Venables do without being able to sell the Dabo Swinney factor? He recruited well. Clemson's defense has recruited well over the past few years. But again, how will he be able to do as the head man? You're selling yourself. You're selling, all those guys you put into the draft from Clemson. That's to be determined. He's kind of an older guy. I think he would have a tough time relating to recruits. So I give it a C-. The coaching fit, a B+. That's with them going to the SEC. I think it's a better fit hiring a defensive guy similar to the Bob Stoops hire than a guy like Lincoln Riley, who knew his style really wasn't going to work into the SEC. So go to the Pac-12. And the overall grade, we'll give it a B for now. The program potential, top 15. It's going to be tough. It's almost like a rebuild with how many players Oklahoma lost to the transfer portal, to decommitting. That's the one thing. Oklahoma is really the first program to lose a major head coach while we're in the full day and age of immediate eligibility. You can transfer and play the next year just like that. And if you're Oklahoma, you lose all your leverage with your current roster because you can't say, well, dude, you're going to be in the NFL next year if you stay here. But instead, if you transfer, you're going to have to wait a year before playing. They lose all that leverage in terms of that. These kids can just transfer to a school, play 1 year, and then go off to the NFL. Kind of like Eli Ricks is doing, transferring out of LSU. He'll be going to a school. He'll be a one and done, a so-called college football one and done, where he'll transfer to a school for 1 year and then go straight to the NFL. That can happen with immediate eligibility. Now, that's why it's tough if you're Oklahoma. You lose Lincoln Riley in such a shocker type of way. It's going to be tough for them to rebuild that. And then one word, identity. The reason I said that again, it's a complete shift in identity going from an offensive mind to a defensive mind. Complete 180 for Oklahoma. but also it's a complete 180 for them going from the Big 12 to the SEC, playing a completely different schedule. So I understand the hire. Billy Napier for Florida. The culture fit, we're going to go with a B on this one. So what I'll say, when you hire a head coach, there's really three different paths you can take as a major program. You can try and snipe another head coach off of another major program, like LSU did with Brian Kelly, like USC did with Lincoln Riley. You can hire from within, like Ohio State did with Ryan Day, like Notre Dame did with Marcus Freeman, or you could kind of go with an up-and-coming coach who's had a lot of success at a mid-major program, which is what Florida did with Billy Napier. So it's tough to grade this hire. He has had success at Louisiana. We're going to give the recruiting fit a C. And there's people that have said he's a good recruiter. Well, you know, he's probably good at convincing lower 3 stars. It's just, we have to wait and see with him. You're coaching at Louisiana. You're really convincing, 3-star talent to come to your school. When you go to Florida, it completely ups the ball game. I'm sure he can create relationships with kids and stuff like that, but it's just, I need to see it on a bigger scale. It's not like this guy's like Brian Kelly coming from Notre Dame, coming from another major program. He's coming from a smaller program into a bigger program. He has a great recruiting base in Florida, but he is going to have to battle schools like Miami, like Florida State for those kids. The coaching fit, we're going to give it a B. The overall grade, I'm giving it a B-. Again, this is a smaller school guy who's had success at Louisiana, going to a bigger school. Really tough to grade these type of hires. Program potential, we're going to go with top 15. Florida coming off a very bad year. That whole Dan Mullen thing, boy, did that torpedo. That went down quickly, man. I think it really started last year in the bowl game when none of Florida's players played. There were some cultural things. They got destroyed by Oklahoma in a New Year's Six game. And wow, did that thing end fast for Dan Mullen. That was a completely just tanked program within the span of about 8 months. What were they, 6-6 this year? Yeah, they're 6-6. They're facing UCF in a bowl game. And then one word, we're going to go with dull. I mean, again, you're hiring a group of 5 guy here. We'll have to wait and see. That's not a negative, but it is kind of a dull hire at this point. And then the last one, Jim Knowles, Ohio State hiring him as their defensive coordinator. He was Oklahoma State's defensive coordinator. Oklahoma State this past year had a top 3 defense in college football. I'm just going to run through this because it's not a head coaching hire, it's a defensive hire. But Ryan Day finally hired a legitimate defensive coordinator. People that really don't pay close attention to Ohio State football, Ohio State has not had a legitimate defensive coordinator for the past 2 years. I don't know what Ryan Day was thinking. Ryan Day makes comments after the Oregon loss that he doesn't want to focus on the defense. Then why did you hire a defensive coordinator that has 0 experience as a defensive coordinator? He hires Kerry Cobes, who had no experience. 2020, they say, okay, it was a shortened year, whatever. We'll give him another chance in 2021. It's like, dude, if you don't want to focus on the defense, if you're like Lincoln Riley, that stuff doesn't work in the Big Ten. You're going to get completely out-physical. You take a look at the Michigan game. Ohio State has 13 more 5 stars on their roster, but it didn't matter because Michigan was 100 times more physical, especially when it came to Ohio State's defense. So that's fine. If you just want to focus on the offense, if you want to recruit all these 5 stars offensive players, if we want to have the number 1 offense in college football, I like that. But you need to hire an alpha male as a defensive coordinator, a guy with experience, a guy with know-how, a guy that's been there, done that. They finally do that. This should have been the hire 2 years ago. I don't know. Ryan Day, if you want to focus on the offense, you cannot hire a first-year defensive coordinator that has 0 experience. And that's what he did 2 years ago. He's corrected his mistake. This is a great hire, a guy with a lot of experience coming off an absolutely unbelievable year with Oklahoma State and their defense. Top 3 defense in college football in the Big 12. That's impressive. One word for that, finally. 2 straight years Ohio State basically hasn't had a legitimate defensive coordinator who makes adjustments mid-game. They finally have that. That's a great hire, guys. Just going over some of the top hires here. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.